Welcome to the Common Humanity podcast, where we're here to have real human conversations. Today, I am joined by Bailey. Bailey is a couple of things. She is the manager over at the gym that I teach at, and she is also a co-owner in a business called the Fermented Leaf in Cheyenne, Wyoming, that makes kombucha, and that's what I know so far. So
Yeah.
other than that, Bailey, who are you?
Yeah. So I am Bailey, one of 7 billion, soon to be 8 billion that walk this earth and try to make something of it. So yeah, that's me in a high level. In a zoomed in level, I do work at the gym. I'm actually leaving the gym to continue to pursue kombucha endeavors. So yeah, I'm trying to grow myself and my passions, and seeing where things in my life fit in those boxes. And the gym has been great to me. They've been super awesome, but it doesn't fit in one of those boxes. So I'm looking at buying a store or buying a commercial kitchen to do kombucha full time, and I have an MBA in business, and I like to support what I've worked on for a long time of my life. Since kindergarten until I graduated.
Yep.
That was school. So yeah, I want to do something for myself and my mom. And she's with me. She's the other co-owner of our business, and she just bought a house by me. So bringing us together and creating something that we can call ours, and that's where my life is right now.
That's fantastic. That makes me so happy for you because if we could all follow our passions, I feel like the world would just be a much better place because we'd all be a lot less cranky.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely lots of privilege in being able to do that. My husband is in the Air Force, so housing, security, like those things, I don't have to worry about. So I'm super, super fortunate on that. And it's kind of the first time in my life where I've been in a place where like it's terrifying, like to just go do something and hope it works, because I've, like I said, I spent my whole life hoping I could get
Yeah.
to this point. But definitely lots of very thankful that I'm at a point where I'm comfortable doing it and not relying on somebody else's job to support my life. So yeah, I won't say like I'm 100% probably as prepared as I could be. But I heard someone say that, like, if you follow your dream, everything else will fit in place. So if you're not spending the time putting your efforts towards whatever that dream is,
Mhm.
and you're putting it towards someone else's dream or towards someone else's goal, you're only making that goal closer. So for me, that was like, okay, let's see how much I can really like put into this goal and reach it, right? So yeah.
I like that a lot. And I agree. Um, I'm on the other side of the coin where in order to make my goals happen, I still have to sell some of my time to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm still doing it in such a way that I enjoy it and it's something I care about.
Right, right. I think we'll always sell our soul to the bank, no matter where you're at. You're all like, it's either like taxes or the bank. Like one of them are gonna have a big part.
I went on a little rant on TikTok yesterday. Um, and it was I'm gonna ask you a question because
Okay.
this is the question I posed after this thing, and then I get into it. Do you think that as a whole we live in a functioning society?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not even like I read in the same idea of functioning society, like functioning as a common like civilian group of people. No,
Yeah.
like we are like indoctrined to like go to school, go do all these things that we all know benefits one government, like
Yeah.
one group of people. And then they say, okay, do all of this, and then work for the rest of your life, and maybe you'll get Social Security if we're lucky, if we don't spend all your money first.
Right.
And maybe you could afford to do something for yourself, like a kombucha business. But by the way, we're going to make leases $1,500, and we're going to make it impossible to get small business loans. So good luck. Good luck. Like, yeah, and that's just the business side. As a society as a whole, like, the government is basically like, if you don't live on our electrical grid and you don't follow our rules, like, you're not allowed to be here. So if you want to be self-sustaining, like, no.
Okay, so I'm glad that I'm not the only person who thinks this, which I didn't think I was the only person who thought this, but it was on this TikTok where this young teacher was ranting about his like super apathetic high schoolers who just don't care. And he
Yeah.
was like, they just think they're allowed to act this way. And I'm just like, and then what his last thing was like, how are we going to sustain a functioning society? And I was like, you are making the assumption that it's a functioning society.
Right.
Like, I'm looking at it like, I've been a substitute teacher and I've talked to high schoolers, and I have a little brother who's in high school, and like, they see that it doesn't function, and they see that it's not serving them, it's serving somebody else. So why would they participate? And one of the things I said, which is what I was leading to, was that it was like, they get up until 18 years old to exist. And as soon as you turn 18, you have to pay to exist. You don't get to exist for free anywhere anymore. Because if you want to live somewhere, you have to pay. If you want to, like, you can't even wander off into the forest because they're like, oh, you want to camp? You just want to live in a tent? Super fantastic. There's a fee you have to pay, whether it's once a week, once a month, whatever. And I'm all for supporting our national forests, but like, I would love to, I want to like I want to build a commune. Like, I'm not even like
yes.
I want a greenhouse. I want like tiny houses. I just want land, and like, we can work together to grow food, raise food, do all of that. I basically want to build myself my very own village.
Yeah.
But to do that, I first have to make millions of dollars in order to buy a large enough plot of land that I could then build on.
Yep. But don't make too much money, because then when you go to do that, they'll know where you are and where to come get your money. And hey, by the way, we're going to make you pay taxes on all this land and all this income you've got, because they don't see it as people living in an area that is creating a small functioning society. They're like, oh, this is a business. How do we get money off of it? Like,
oh my God.
yeah. I've always been, and honestly, I will say, like, down to corporations, like my mom and I would talk about our kombucha. That is like one of the big things, is we talk about, like, you walk into any restaurant and they'll offer you Diet Coke. They'll offer you Coke, which we know, like, completely destroys your stomach and is like, can erode cars. Like,
Yeah.
we'll offer you that. Pennies, $1.25, Coke's yours. But do you want anything that was like actually good for you, or made for you, or supposed to be consumed by humans? $25.
Yeah.
Like, that's like one of our big, like, just my mom and I, before we even did a business, we were like, okay, can we make it at home? Can we grow it? Can we do it? Like, how do we make our own deodorant? How do we make our own, like, how do we grow our own herbs? What do we not need to buy from someone else? And, you know, you get into the paradox of insurance and health companies prescribing medicine, that the insurance, you know, like, I could literally talk about this for hours, because I mean, our society is set up as a corporation to make money off of the people who need the products that they require you to have.
And then there's the other side where, in some respect, corporations have more rights than citizens, which
Yes.
So
much more.
Yeah, I mean, on the insurance and health side of things, being a trainer, like, my dream is that, you know, doctors can start prescribing movement as like preventative medicine. And there are some doctors who have been able to move in that direction, but until the whole world moves in that direction, like, because insurance does not cover. I mean, it's great that once you turn 65, I guess it's like 55 now, you can get on silver sneakers or something like that, and you can
Through
get,
one benefit.
yeah. But you have to be almost close to retiring age before you get an insurance benefit to stay healthy, which
Right.
seems really silly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like on the like movement as medicine, like there's I feel like such a large presence of what are the doctors called that do they practice, they're like practicing um like think like preventative
Yeah,
practice instead of like medicating or
I can't
diagnosing
think of the
the
name right
problem.
now.
Yeah, so they medicate, like here's your problem, okay, here's the medicine for the solution, instead of okay, here's the actual problem, how do we fix that, like how do we become preventative medicine and medicine that solves the problem, that's like actually the problem, not just like, oh, you have some pain, here's medicine, here's amoxicillin or whatever medicine, I don't know,
Yeah.
ibuprofen, whatever.
Well, and like I tell, I mean, clients all the time, whether they're my senior clients or like the youth I work with, that like they're like, well, I'm hurt, I need ibuprofen. I'm like, no, you're hurt. You need to listen to what your body's saying. And if you mask that with painkillers, the chances of you hurting yourself more increase.
Oh yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
and one of my passions, like why that's one of my passions, is because I was the high school kid who got hurt. And it was because I was like, I'll just down 6 Tylenol and get through the game. Yeah,
Right.
it's bad. Don't.
No, that was me about a month ago. I think I tore my rotator cuff maybe a year ago.
Mhm.
And I love volleyball. Like volleyball is like there are two passions, kombucha, volleyball.
Do you have a volleyball team?
Yeah, I play on the Air Force volleyball team
Oh,
here.
that makes sense.
Do you play in club? Is that why you ask?
No, I don't have a women's team in town, and they got rid of CVL. And
Well, we are so I play on the Air Force volleyball team and we play at the club league for Cheyenne.
mhm,
And I've always had some shoulder pain for like a year. I've had shoulder pain. I knew I did something small and then just kept playing on it and it got worse. I
yeah,
was like, oh, we'll give it 2 months. So I didn't play for 2 months, went back, started hurting again, like no problem. Well, last like maybe a month ago, I went to play in one of our tournament or one of our games for club. And I was in a lot of pain. And I was like, man, like something's not right this time. Like it's worse than it normally is. Fun fact, I tore my rotator cuff and let it heal wrong, and something about now I have cysts all over the tear that I had, and so now I have to have those surgically removed. So now I can't play for like a lot longer than if I would have just rested the first time.
yeah, which is
Got
a
it.
very hard lesson to learn.
Yes.
Hard lesson.
Especially when you love something. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to stop. Like, yeah.
Mine was my knee in high school. I tore my MCL, meniscus, and bursa,
Mm,
and didn't get an MRI until 2 years later, when the pain was just so bad I couldn't take it anymore. And they were like, well, the bad news is you tore all these things. The good news is your knee is held together by scar tissue. And I had like same thing, had cysts. I chose not to get it surgically repaired and instead did a lot of like manual massage techniques, which are very, very painful. But
I'm
it took like 10
sure. Because
years.
don't you have to like you have to massage them to the point that you bust them all and they're gone?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
It
how
was
I knew
like
I had
after
it, is the busted one.
yeah, it's like after a softball game, I had one of my friends was um studying to be a PT, and so after our softball games, I would literally just bite down on my glove and she would just go
Yeah.
at it. It was
Oh, I couldn't can imagine, like I have like bruising right now, so I know like I couldn't imagine trying to like push any harder on like my shoulder. Oh man.
Yeah. So, and that's one of those things, like, and this has been my hardest thing trying to train youth athletes is that, like, my brain was like, if I can get to them young and I can impart my knowledge on them so that they don't do the same thing, so that they can be uninjured and continue their seasons as long as possible. Because I mean, pretty much every study shows, like, if you want to be as strong as you possibly can be, if you want to be as fast as you possibly can be, if you want to be as successful in athletics, the biggest factor is how few times you get injured.
Yeah.
Like, the
I
less you get injured, the longer you get to
yes.
play. And it was like this beautiful pipe dream because I totally forgot that, no offense to teenagers are idiots
Yeah.
and they think they know everything. So, like, talking to my little brother, I'm just like, you're like, he got a concussion playing baseball. And I was like, you're out for a week. And he
Yeah.
was like, no, I can do it. Like, no, your brain is more important than a baseball game. Like,
For sure.
super more important. And then
Super.
the following weekend, he did I don't know what he did. I don't remember. But I was just like, okay, like, checking on him, like, doing all of the like first aid things to make sure that he was okay. And he was like, I'm gonna be fine. Just give me some Tylenol. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop this tornado from happening, because he was
Yeah.
14, almost 15. And like, there's no stopping him from, like, unless I lock him in a cage. And however, there is hope. There have been some people I've worked with who are like, okay, you're right. I should mitigate injuries and whatever. But it is such a hard lesson to learn. And we don't live in a society that teaches us to listen to our bodies. We live in a society that, like, tries to drown out anything. So, like, question, why kombucha?
Couple reasons. One, it's a really good soda alternative. I don't drink soda anymore. My mom doesn't really drink soda anymore. It's soda, like I mentioned before, it's the mainstream. You go anywhere, you could probably find soda. Why? It's because it's addicting. It's because it's not actually good for you, and it's filled with sugar and it's filled with chemicals and like just all of the things. Or you could drink something that is just as tasty, in my opinion, right? It's some way kombucha's made is not as tasty. Like, I'm not a fan of like the super strong vinegary tasting kombucha. Our kombucha tastes like if you made peach soda, that's what our kombucha, like, it tastes like. But it's tea, organic sugar, a SCOBY, which helps ferment the drink, and then a peach craft puree. And the peach craft puree is peaches. Like, that's it. And it's just like, the company we use is really great. And like that's it. So like, I know what I'm putting in my body. I also know how my body feels afterwards. I know that like my gut is regular. Like, I don't have to worry about that. I know that like my mom, she's kind of the same. Like, it gives us just a little bit of energy, like makes us like, it doesn't have a lot of caffeine in it. It's really negated in the fermented process. So the rest of it comes from whatever tea's in there. So it's not really like coffee. Like, I love coffee, don't get me wrong. If I could give coffee up and not like actually miss the taste of it, I would. But there are some people that are like addicted to coffee.
Oh yeah.
And like, that doesn't seem healthy to me. And that's kind of like, my mom and I have just always been about like, what's good for us? What do we know is actually going into it? So like, I feel like this is where TikTok gets into like a lot of like conversations, because like, you can find everything you need to be like a holistic person on TikTok. And then what does the government want to get rid of? TikTok. And I just find that very interesting that like, you can make all natural, every item that you use in your household, and never need a corporation ever again, just by typing homemade, insert item here. And we're talking like 10 ingredients at most, right? Like shampoos, you've got some herbs, some conditioner, you've got some, products and deodorant, food, like all of your breads, all of your, like, I mean, everything can be done at home. Now, obviously, if you have a garden, like that's a perfect world, because then you're growing it all. And I mean, like, you don't need anyone. And
Yeah.
for us, that's like being not reliant on corporations that are making thousands and thousands of dollars, and knowing that what we're putting in our body is actually good for us. Because like you mentioned, our body, like we know,
Yep.
it tells us, like, we know, like, if I have like hormonal acne, but then I have other acne. I know if I eat a bunch of like junk food or even like drink sodas, like, I break out. It is what it is. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting how what you put in your body affects, like, what you put in your stomach affects the rest of your body.
Right.
So it's kind of a lot of things, honestly. Like, one, because I don't think we learned that larger kombucha companies, sometimes, we love kombucha and we make it most of the time, but occasionally when we're somewhere where we can't get, a drink, and we don't want water, because we are both like, we like the taste of water, we will drink water all day. But when we want something else, it's like kombucha companies. So we go, okay, let's buy this kombucha, right? And there's like one brand I will buy at the store, and it's the only brand. The other ones, there's a lot of them that they make their tea taste like kombucha and then call it kombucha, because they added in probiotics so that it would have probiotics inside of it. It would taste like it, so they add acidifiers to make it taste like kombucha. But it's not like the process, they killed all the bacteria that was grown in the kombucha and then just added their own.
Yeah.
Well, like, that's why. Like,
So this is like, in my brain, this is like they have like protein cookies and protein Pop Tarts and protein all these things, which taste fucking awful. And then, like, first of all, if I'm going to eat a cookie, I want it to be a cookie.
yeah,
I want it to be fresh out of the oven, and I want to thoroughly enjoy it. And like, this is coming from someone who eats like 190 grams of protein a day. Like, there's a lot of protein going into this girl. And um it's just it's corporate and it's capitalism, and it's like, we're going to change everything so that it can be marketed, right?
oh yeah,
Because like, just eating chicken is boring, which, I mean, I love chicken, so I don't think that's true. But then, like, so I'm allergic to dairy, but I love yogurt. And so I've tried to find yogurts, so they're non-dairy yogurts. And then
yep,
they have some that like taste like yogurt, but they don't have the probiotics that is in dairy yogurt, because that's where the probiotics come from.
right,
Uh, and then there's some that add it in. And then there was like this whole process in my brain at one point in time, like having to learn how to bake things vegan so that I don't have an allergic reaction. And then they're like, oh, you can get vegan eggs, and you can get vegan this, and you can get vegan that. And I'm like, what is the point if you're going to imitate the real thing? Like, for me, I know the point is I have an allergy and that's why I do it. But there are
right,
people who are like, I knew someone who is like, I'm trying to be vegan, and then they're like, I need a vegan hamburger, and I need vegan eggs, and I need vegan this. And I'm like, so you want to eat like a person who's not vegan, but be vegan, which just like adds so much more convoluted mess to what you're consuming, when you could just be like, if you want to be vegan, fantastic. Like, there's a lot of vegetables that you can get protein from,
yeah,
and it doesn't have to mimic animal products.
yeah. And like, what do companies, back to these corporations, and their little horns. Like, what are they putting in the food to make it taste like something it's not? Because that's also a huge one. Like, you're buying fake meat,
Yeah.
and like it's technically not meat. It's some type of chemically derived ingredients that are put together to taste like meat. But if you're looking at it at a health aspect, what's actually healthier? Just eating the meat,
Yeah.
or eating this fake meat that was made to taste like it? I'm a little biased. If I could never eat meat ever again, and it was only like locally raised happy cows and chickens, I would do it. I would
Yeah.
never eat corporation based meat ever again. And that's one thing I really like about Cheyenne, is that is extremely accessible here. I made a friend at the farmers market. Her name's Helen, and she owns a Longhorn steak cattle company, and she has eggs, meat, like chicken, all the things, and goat milk. And like, for me, she's just this like girl who, like, I'm pretty sure her husband like works every day. And she was just like, yeah, I got these cattle and I got these chickens. And like, that's somebody I would buy like my food from.
Yeah.
And if that means I'm eating like meat, yeah, I would eat cattle from her. But I struggle because like I got a soft heart, and I love cows. Like, as the actual animals, they're my favorite animal in the whole world. So like I every time we eat meat that's like bought from a store, I'm literally like, poor cow. Like, this hurts my heart.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I don't think it affects me as much, because one, I can't currently afford as much meat as I do eat without it being like, I go through two rotisserie chickens from Sam's Club every week.
Yeah, yeah,
um, like, someone told me like, you should raise chickens, and I was like, do you know how many chickens I would have to raise? Like, I can't eat the eggs. I would have to eat the chickens, and that's a
yeah.
lot. Like, that's a lot of chickens for to feed me.
Right.
But I also have a friend. So my friend owns Prairie Grass Ranch, which is a goat
Yeah.
farm, and I'm only allergic to cow's milk. So whenever I need cheese, I have someone I can buy cheese from,
Yeah.
and it's
They're the
fantastic.
ones with the therapy goats, aren't they?
No, they don't have therapy goats. At least I don't think so. But she makes lotion and shampoo, and which
Yeah.
one of the things is fantastic. Like, I always get the shampoo bars for my swim bag in the winter because
Yes.
liquid shampoo freezes in the winter. Um, and my hair is like, I switched away from like regular store-bought
Yeah.
shampoo. At least I guess it's still store-bought, but like organic, paraben-free kind of stuff is what I've been using for like the last decade or so. But like, hair texture has changed. Like, my hair gets really oily, and like, most days I wear braids, so it doesn't matter. But like, on the rare occasion that I want to wear it down, I'm like, I can't do anything with this. And then my friend starts making shampoo bars, and they work better than anything. And
Yes.
my hair feels great. And I'm just like, why? Like, and I know there's a bunch of like small businesses that sell them on Instagram and stuff like that. But if I could just drive out to Kurt Gowdy, go for a hike, stop by her little shop, and like pick
Yeah.
a, why would I not do that?
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. Like, we use shampoo bars here at my house, and my husband's like, the first time I brought it in, he was like, what is, my husband, I don't think, realized like he is a meat and potatoes and like Old Spice deodorant, like normal, like high schooler that grew up like
Yeah.
this. Like, he still eats like he's 17. He eats so much. And so like, when I came in, I was like, hey, so here's shampoo bars, here's kombucha. I'm gonna have 5 gallon buckets of this vinegar smelling drink on our counter forever. I have sourdough starter. I got 3 containers of sourdough starter. And he's like, what is all this shit? And I'm like, it's worth it. Trust me. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, if I could buy from, and I'm pretty sure that you said Prairie Rose, Prairie
Prairie Grass
Hills.
Ranch.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure they were at the farmers market.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they joined at the end like we did. And she was like, there's a seller here, or I joined at the end. I don't know if they joined at the end, but I joined at the end of the farmers market this winter or this fall. And they were like down from us. And so there was 2 ladies that did shampoo bars. One was like, she was like, oh, I'm also not a huge like fragrance person. Like,
Mhm.
I like perfume, but it's sparingly, and like most of the time if I'm gonna do perfume, it's gonna be like, I'm gonna make sure it's like vegan and natural and not a bunch of junk in it. And so she was like, some of her shampoo bars had perfume and stuff in it, whereas pretty sure hers had some essential oils in it,
Yep. That's
which
what
was
she put in everything.
nice. Yeah, it was nice because I was like, okay, this is what, like, if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna use essential oils. So if I'm gonna buy it, why not just buy essential oil based shampoo bars? So yeah,
She's also now made like perfume-esque roller things.
rollerballs. Yeah,
So that so that if you want scent, because that I mean perfumes make me sick.
yeah,
Um and so anytime I want to smell nice, like that's what I have.
yeah,
And it's I don't know, it's one of those things that I know like hippies get a lot of flack for like smelling like patchouli and things like that. But honestly, patchouli smells delicious. So why wouldn't you want to? Mine is bergamot. Like
uh,
that is my favorite smell.
I like frankincense.
Ooh, I
That,
love that.
yeah, I that and like I'll put that, like, this time of year. My husband's a huge Christmas tree scent person, so like he's already like started putting the hot oil warmer wax things in our
Mhm.
house, and they all smell like Christmas tree. And I'm going around when it's warm and like dropping frankincense in it. And, like, he doesn't know, but now it smells like Christmas instead of a Christmas tree in our house. So yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. So if you are like dreaming as big as possible, where does your kombucha business take you?
That's a tough question because I feel like it would take me into a place where, like you said, I could go off the grid and live with just like some family and we wouldn't need anyone else. And so, like, it's almost like, can I get big enough to disappear?
Yeah.
Can I get big enough to where, like maybe somebody else makes the kombucha and I just, come in once a week and I live on my farm with cows and chickens and goats and sheep and, cats. I would be a crazy cat lady. Like, I would have barn cats, I would have my house cats, I'd have the kombucha cats. Like, I would yeah. I don't know. I think honestly, like, I used to work for big Fortune 500 company, and you know, didn't I didn't love it. I did not hate it. It was a good job. It did what it needed to do, but at the end of the day, I was always putting 110% into someone else's business.
Yeah.
So for me, it's running my own business, keeping it local. I don't see national, like, it would have to be the perfect world. It would almost be like a franchise where I find someone else who really, really, really wants to do kombucha and own their own business and own their own shop, or anything like that, and then teach them how to do it, and then like let that grow, so that they can also be self-sufficient. They can also just be learning and growing. I don't think that there's there's definitely space for a big, ginormous kombucha company, but I think that once you get that scale, you lose the aspect of being able to be the inner hippie that I am, I think, you know. And I in a perfect world, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's just in America. But I think staying local and being able to, like, maybe even it's just, you know, Cheyenne and some of Colorado, you know, being able to bring just really healthy drinks and stuff to them. I think after that, I don't know, I could definitely, like, I really envision myself hiding on a farm with all the animals, and like somebody comes and picks up the product and I sell it to them, and then they leave my farm and it's just me and all my cats. But I don't know. That's a good question. It really is, because, you know, I got an MBA for a business, for, you know, for a reason, and it was to grow my business acumen and be able to originally it was be able to do whatever I wanted in the business world. And for me right now, that's owning and running my own business. So I'm not really sure where it's going to go from there. And I think honestly, in a perfect world, it would maybe be like a sugar daddy that it paid for all my random things I want to do. But my husband and I love each other, so that one's out. But yeah.
I mean, if you write the contract well enough, you could have a sugar daddy without any of the
Right.
other stuff.
No extra ties.
um, question one, have you, well, okay, multiple questions. Let me get my brain under control. Are you from Cheyenne or from Wyoming? Or are you a trans?
No, I'm a transfer. So I'm a military brat, which means that I was made in Japan, born in North Carolina, raised in Virginia, moved to Tennessee, moved to West Virginia, moved to Mississippi, then moved back to North Carolina, spent all my summers in California, because every time we moved, I spent a summer at my grandma's house. And then we moved again to South Carolina, and then we moved again to back to North Carolina, and then I went off on my own and moved around. Where can I go? Oh no!
Oh my god. So everybody knows, we have been having a fantastic conversation. My internet went out and this has not been recorded. And so that is unfortunate for all of you, but it's been great for us.
So you just asked if I could pick up and leave and go anywhere.
Yeah.
And for sure, absolutely. I've thought of it. I've been very close to doing it. I think that if I hadn't have met Josh, I probably would not probably live in, like, I don't know, I'd live somewhere in Europe right now, just working for the company I used to work for. And if my husband was not in the Air Force, I would be moving us. Costa Rica is very, very high on that list. So is, like, the Isles of Scotland, like far into, like I said, I'd be happy owning some cows and some chickens and going to the store once a week, and having very, like, Montessori, like, learning as you do things family. So for sure, I've thought about, like, you know, selling everything and backpacking and, like, all the things. And it is definitely something that, like, my husband is gonna ease into. Like, he has never been out of the country. So that's something, like, I have a feeling once we start, it's gonna be like a money pit of adventures. We're gonna be like, okay, what can we sell in our house to go on vacation? Or like how long can you get off of work to go on vacation? Because we'll want to go everywhere. And then I really hope when we retire, we do go somewhere else. Not that, you know, it wouldn't be great here, but by the time he retires, we'll have a chance to, you know, be somewhere else. And there's a good chance we go somewhere else with the military, which would be awesome. Italy's up on that list, which I think would be a really good place to start. But, like, I don't think, right? I haven't been to Italy in a long time. I don't study their school systems or their politics. I don't think it's a lot different than America.
Yeah.
It would have to be somewhere like that values family and community, right?
Hmm.
And like Spain, I've been watching some TikToks recently about like Spain, the difference between like raising kids in America and raising kids in Spain, right? Parents in America a lot of times work on the kid's schedule. What time does a kid need to be in bed? Because then they got to be home, and they got to be home 2 hours before to get the kid ready for bed. And in Spain, they're like, all right, get in your stroller, we're going out to eat. And it's like 9 o'clock at night. The kid falls asleep in the stroller, like no big deal. Like your friend's mom is also at dinner, and like she said she'll go check on the kids in the stroller, and like it's a community, it's a village raising these kids instead of like living your life around the idea of what a family is supposed to be. So going somewhere like that, I would very much be open to. Would they want us? I don't know. I feel like sometimes there's the negative connotation, but I think as long as you go in with like good intentions, that a lot of people will kind of bring you in.
Have, have you traveled in your adult life?
Yeah, so I lived in Japan for a little bit with my parents when we were stationed there. And that was while I was in college. But I've been to Italy and Greece. I went there in high school, so I was still kind of young. And unfortunately, we went with like a group of kids from high school, and so like half of us were super excited to be in Italy and experience Italy and Greece. The other half was like, we can drink. 16 years old. So there's a big like gap between us and them, and made the trip difficult. So I want to go back there and do it as an adult. I also don't want to go to Rome. Rome was disgusting. Like I was not a fan. It was dirty, and a lot of graffiti everywhere on everything. Like it was big city, right? But when I was in college, when I was in my MBA program, I went to the Czech Republic and Austria, and I loved that. It was clean, it was beautiful, the people were very nice, and like there wasn't anywhere I couldn't, like it was so, I go back to like the same idea of like having other options. Like there were cafes and bakeries that you would walk to, and they made like sandwiches and coffee, and you could grab that and go like explore and walk. Everything's walking. I love that. You walk everywhere, and like you want to get from one side of town to the other, you can bird and then get off and walk. Like it was so awesome. Like I loved that. And then I've been to Mexico for fun, to like experience, go see Mexico City and stuff like that. And then like some of the Bahamas and the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
I don't think you can see them in the camera, but they have the little dots on them everywhere I've been. And I visited China. I was only there for 16 hours. It was a layover. I had a 24-hour layover. So I went with this, I met this girl. She's on Instagram, and she's like, I didn't know how many followers she had. She's like huge on Instagram. And I was sitting in the coffee shop. The airport was closed. So we got in, and the airport didn't open for like 9 hours. So we couldn't come back. And she had already planned this like whole day in China. And she was like, we were sitting there, and I was talking to someone else, and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure like how we get into town, but we can figure it out if you're going into town. And they were like, no, I think I'm going to stay here. And she goes, hey, I'm going out in town. If you would like to join us, you can come with us. We have lunch reservations at this time, so we'll have to leave you then. But if you're comfortable, like you can come hang out with us. And I mean, we're in China. Like I realized we had a layover. I just didn't realize the airport was going to be closed, and I couldn't sit in the little international section and eat, real Chinese food. So I did. I went with her, and like it was such a good 16 hours. It was so spontaneous, which I think made it like even better. And then we parted ways, and I was like, okay, like bye, and just kind of walked around like Shanghai was where we were. Walked around Shanghai, took pictures. Like it was awesome. And like that little moment was like, okay, like I found like a group of my people, and it's people who like travel and make connections and just come together so easily. There was no hesitation. She was like, "We're going out in town. You want to come?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah, that's fantastic. I have a similar experience when I went to Morocco in college for sort of study abroad project, and I had a 24-hour layover in Madrid, and I was like, well, I'm not just sitting in the airport. Like,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful airport, but I'm gonna go see Madrid. Like, all of
yeah,
my luggage is checked, so I don't have
yep,
anything. Like, I
yep,
have what is on my body, and I'm just like, well, here we go. And so,
yeah,
um, but yeah, and I think that's super fun. I have a friend who I've never met in person. I've literally only met her on Instagram. Um, no, wait, that's not true. That's not true because okay, she was she was on my podcast a while ago. Why did I forget this? We followed each other on Instagram because we're both powerlifters. And when I was in St. Louis last year for North Americans, like I went to this breath and exposure thing at a local gym. So it's cold and heat exposure and breath work.
yep.
And I was like, I've been wanting to do this. There's one while I'm here, convenient. And then like we were chatting and we were like, oh, let's exchange Instagrams. And I was like, do, I already follow you. And she's like, I already follow you. Like, hey, nice to meet you.
That's awesome.
um, so that was fun. But we talked about it, and she's a big traveler, and we both kind of decided that we prefer traveling alone, because when you travel alone, you have the opportunity to meet people. Like, one, you get to do whatever the hell you want to, but then you have the opportunity to be like, hey, is anybody sitting there? Do you mind if I join you? Versus like if you're going with a big group, you sort of just have to stay with your group. Like, you go with your family and you're like, okay, mom, let's go. All
Right.
right, we have things to see. But if you go by yourself, like, you get to experience more of where you are,
Yep.
and I like that a lot. So
Yeah. I'm trying to get my husband on board with that. Like, he's definitely a creature of comfort. Like, he'll plan everything, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What are
yeah.
we gonna do? Where are we gonna eat? Where are we gonna stay? And I'm just like, I think I'm gonna go here. And then like I found a hostel. Like, I jumped on, if you know what a MAC flight is for military, it's free space A. You can jump on a flight if they have room and it's not booked and they're going somewhere and you want to go, you can jump on. So when I was living in Japan, I went to the airport in Japan. They were like, hey, if you go to this base, I was at the base airport. They were like, if you go to this base, you're more likely to get a flight going somewhere else. And I was like, cool. So I took a MAC flight from here to here, and it was like northern Japan. And then they were like, hey, if you go to this base, they're leaving for a bunch of international flights out of Japan tomorrow and then like this week. I was like, cool. Took a train down, sitting in this airport. Day one, no flights. Cool, no worries. I go the next day, and there's this guy there. His name's Allison, and he was like so cool, like about my age at the time. He was in the Air Force, and he just had 40 something or maybe like 30 something days of leave that if he didn't use it, he was going to lose it. So he
Mhm.
took the whole month off. And we're sitting in the airport, and I was like, well, where are you going? And he's like, I don't know. And he was like, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know. And then they were like, hey, we have 4 spots for Hawaii. Does anyone want to go? And we were both like, you want to go to Hawaii? And he was like, yeah, let's go to Hawaii. So we jump on, and like by the time we get off, like we are like, okay, let's see if we can find a hostel or something we can stay at. We meet this girl, and she's like from the Netherlands, I believe, that or Norway, I can't remember. And she was just the same thing. She was just like, oh, I was just on holiday and I wanted to go somewhere, so I figured I would see Hawaii. And we like traversed Hawaii. We went to Diamondback. Like, we did all of the like fun things you would do when you go visit Hawaii. And, it was all very spontaneous, and it was very exciting. And it was a really, really good trip because it was traveling alone. You just bop, 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 bop. So I'm trying to get my husband into the like, it's okay to like just go and
Yeah.
figure it out.
I think that's like the one thing that I like to do spontaneously, is just like wander. I don't know, I want to go to this neighborhood
Yeah.
and see what's there. Like,
Yeah.
and if there's nothing, then I'd turn around and go to a different neighborhood. Like, I
Right.
just
Right.
go. My friend from college called me up in August, like the first week of August, maybe second week of August, and was like, "Hey, I have an extra ticket to a concert in Boston. Tickets paid for, hotel is paid for. I'll pay for half your plane ticket so I don't have to go to this concert alone. If you'll come hang out with me in Boston for a week." And I was just like, done. But it was I went to my mom and I was like, "Mom, can you take care of the children?" And my mom's a teacher, and it was the week before school started. I was like, "I'm gonna get back Tuesday night." No, I think I got back like late Monday, like going into Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And school started Wednesday. I was like, "It's gonna be stressful. Do you care if I jet off to Boston in a week?" And she was like, "You have to. Like, it has to
Yeah.
happen." I was like, "Okay, bye.
Bye.
My kid's alive."
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. From the card. What is a dream that, oh my goodness, if I can read. What is a dream you have that you haven't achieved yet?
Hmm. That's a good question. What is a dream? This is kind of one I probably won't ever be able to achieve, to be honest. But like, it is a dream to know. I feel like this is almost a little too philosophical, but I feel like it's a dream of mine to know the answers to the universe. Like, I want to know, is Christianity bullshit? I want to know, is there a God? Is there no God? Is there 12 gods? I want to know if, if the universe is what it is just because, or is it something that is like all of us combined, and we are just living over and over and recreating the energy over and over and doing life. I've heard so many stories about, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the kids that can recall their past life. So many stories about children who are like, "Oh, I used to love this singer," and the mom's like, "What? We've never listened to jazz music." And they're like, "No, I used to listen to it all the time, and this was my favorite artist." And you're like, "What?" And then like the kid's like, "Oh yeah, before I died." And they're like, "What?" And it's like they're able to recall like past lives. Like, I want to know, a dream of mine is to like either experience it firsthand so that I just have some clarity, or die and figure it all out. I don't know.
Because I have a couple of ideas. Have you ever read The Universe as an Egg?
No.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Two, one thing, and I love telling people this. So, have you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide?
To the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer is 42,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So it's funny. One of my, and it's a complete coincidence, but I do find it very interesting. There's a book that I read a couple years ago. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's all about like reaching your top ability to perform in anything.
Yeah.
And there's all these studies that have shown that your body needs to rest 42% of the time. And I love it because there's literally a quote that says something along the lines of like, if you don't give your body rest, it will take it. Like, you don't just get to decide that you don't get to rest. Like, it'll throw you on the ground, put its boot on your neck, and you will rest. And it made me think of like, even to the conversation we were having earlier, being able to recognize when you're injured and you need to heal.
Yep.
Like, that is giving your body rest, because injuries happen more often than not when we aren't resting as much as we need to.
Yep.
And like, rest, it doesn't have to be sleep. But it just has to be where your brain's not working, where your body's not working, where you're just existing. And I
Yeah.
think it's very interesting that the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. And there's this study that says that we need to rest 42% of the time in order for us to function.
Coincidences are not coincidences.
Right? And also, there's all sorts of countries that have a shorter work week who take naps in the afternoon, and they have like their mortality rates are lower, they're happier, they have a more functioning society.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's a dream right there. Like,
Yeah.
to know the answers, which I mean, obviously, like, I know that's not like, I'm going to try shrooms to see if that's the answer, but do I think that's going to be the answer? Maybe not, but we're going to work towards it. So we'll see.
I know people who would say that it does miraculous things to your brain. So, my easiest dream that I haven't achieved yet is that I want to step foot on every continent. So, it's one of those things that by the time I die, I will have seen this world.
Oh yeah.
How I go about doing it is still a question mark, but I will. So,
do you have the BEN app?
The what app?
BEN, BEEN. It's an app that like you can track everywhere you've been, and it's this really everywhere you've been, get it? And it's this really cool like integrated app that you get that like it'll show you like all the countries, like they're all the ones in color is where I've been. So I've seen 5% of the world, and I've been to 11 countries. And it just keeps track. I have a bad memory. It keeps track of it. Like if you were to ask me right now, I have to think about it. I can remember things I've done there, but like, I might forget like I went here. So it's nice to like have it logged, and then like it's also kind of this like little, I'm 5% of the way there, and as you do more, like it gets bigger, and it can do continents. So it's like I've seen 25% or whatever it is of the continents, and yeah, it's just a cool way to like track it, so you can like, here's my goal and here's the tracker. So
yeah, I've already pulled it up on my phone. So yeah, because I mean there's the part of me that's just like, we haven't even discovered the entirety of the earth. Like there are still civilizations that are untouched by Western society who like we don't even know about, living in rainforest somewhere.
You've heard
I don't
about the one that
necessarily
like when you like they don't let you in, like you're not
right.
allowed, and they're just like
What?
on an island, and like no visitors, do not come to us. I love that.
Because they know we'll ruin it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not the person who ruins it. I was having this conversation the other day, like, how do you fix humanity? And I was like, honestly, I think that like if you follow history, we have to crumble and build ourselves back up again. Like empires have to fall. And whoever I was talking to was saying, they're like, do you think that's the only way? And I'm like, I mean, I think it's the most realistic way, because and he was like, but then how do you know that the people a few generations down the line aren't going to ruin it again? And I was like, well, again, if you look historically, they're gonna.
They will. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's sort of human nature to ruin stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's one of those things. I think the world is a dumpster fire, but I believe in the power of humanity. So it's like, really just depends on my mood.
It's like a coffee shop on fire. We're all there for coffee. We're all enjoying our coffee. It's just on fire.
Yeah.
We still need our coffee though, like I said earlier, addicted to coffee.
Okay, so the very last question. If there's one thing that the world needs to know or to hear, what is it?
Nothing you do matters. The grand scheme of things, nothing you do matters. So why not make the things you do whatever you want, and do no harm. those two things. I think that the world is in a place where, and I don't mean nothing you do matters. Like, you should go buy a diesel truck and drive it for hours every day so that you can ruin the environment. Like, right? Like, things like that. Sure,
Well,
they matter.
that crosses the do no harm.
Right? Exactly. Put the two together, and you know, if you don't like your job, there is more. There's more. If you don't like where you live, if you don't like the people in your community, there's more. I definitely think that there are certain places that resonate with certain people more. And sometimes you just aren't productive and you aren't yourself because you don't resonate with the community around you or the place you're in. There's somewhere that you will, and you just gotta find it. So yeah.
I don't think I could agree with you more.
Yeah.
Well, Bailey, thank you for having a real human conversation with me and being on the Common Humanity podcast.